This is a chart showing the timeline of a basic speedrun of mine. With an average time of 13:43, that puts me in a very high percentile compared to the rest of the MCSR ranked player base. In terms of ELO, I settle in right about here. But now, here's the average completion of a top 50 speedrunner in the world. With a combined average of 9:51, that would put a pro runner nearly 4 minutes ahead of me by the end of a seed. If everything was as cut and dry as the raw numbers, I could never win even if I played a pro 1,000 times in a row. But like any great competition, speedrunning carries a ton of variables, strategies, and game plans you can try and deploy to give yourself the best chance to beat the odds. In today's video, I'm going to attempt to find what it would take to beat a pro speedrunner. And to help me out in my goal, I reached out to the current rank 42 JackoWacko for some advice on how that gap could be bridged. To start it off, what is the main thing that separates the world's top runners and the average runner?
Mindset. I don't know. It's okay. No, there's a lot of things, right? I think obviously experience is just a big thing. People who have been playing for 4 years are naturally just going to be better than people who have been playing for 6 months. But I think how you approach the game and like your background and stuff like that can definitely impact like the improvement aspect of that. I've always changed my mind on this subject many times, but like the debate is kind of like how much mechanics actually matter, because like people will be like, mechanics don't actually matter that much. Like you just need to have good decision making. But then like once you get to a certain level, then the mechanics do start to matter again. So it's like, it's definitely an interesting thing. But okay, one more time, like thinking about like what is the main thing that separates top runners and average runner? I would say like it's decision making and mindset.
As Jacko was saying, decision making is actually much more important than raw mechanics when it comes to dropping your times. And since this video is about how someone could close the gap in a run, it's important to note the mental side of speedrunning carries a lot more weight, especially at the lower skill levels. When it comes to applying that to your personal runs, try to maintain focus on both your current task and upcoming tasks. This lets you make decisions not only based on what would be faster in the present, but also what would allow you to be faster in the future. An example would be saving some gold from the Bastion and pre-crafting them into gold picks at a blaze spawner. The forethought decision of saving gold leads to the time save when mining second portal cords or in the end. He also mentioned mindset, which ties directly with how you practice, approach challenges, and your mentality when facing different scenarios. In the context of our overarching question, you would have to be less focused on pushing your mechanics to their absolute limit and more focused on making the correct decisions and having the right mindset. Which specific part of a run has the smallest time gap between pros and amateurs?
It's either overworlds or ends. It's kind of a weird question because it depends. Also, some players are maybe like super fast at overworlds and slow at end games, or like vice versa. So it could just be a player by player type of thing. Like if I'm being technical, like looking at like the ranked analysis thing, it would just be like nether terrain because that's the shortest split. But if I'm giving like an actual answer, probably overworlds or ends, because I feel like a lot of like gold players will have like super fast overworlds, like sub 3, and then just kind of like the rest of the run is slower. I think the nether split overall is like the part that's much more variance.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Which part do you think has the biggest gap?
This one I have a much more confident answer on. I feel like end games, like fort to finish type of thing, you know, that split is very important. And something that I feel like a lot of people don't realize, then is something that I talk about a lot. Fort splits, when you're starting out, or maybe when you have less of an understanding of Minecraft speedrunning, I feel like a lot of people think of it as like a rather simple split. Like you're just, the thing you think about is like you're gathering the rods. But in the actual scope of like diamonds plus level Minecraft speedrunning, I think it's actually maybe the hardest split, because all the things that you do, like you pre-craft your beds or whatever, right? Ideally. But other than that, you're saving all the stuff, all the inventory management, all the crafting, you build your portal and you do your eyes and all that. You're saving all that for the fort split. The fort split's like the crunch time when you have to like lock in and get all that stuff done in time before you get all your rods.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially inventory management and everything. A lot of that happens right then. Trying to overlap a lot of those different tasks with the blazes spawning leads to time being stretched out for more novice players because it's harder to overlap that kind of stuff. So far, we know I'd have to have improved decision making and mindset to start closing this 4-minute gap. But as Jacko said, the splits where I'd have to make the least ground up are most likely the overworld and end. Overworlds are typically very linear and ranked, some types more than others, but the combination of not having to make complex decisions and having one major goal in mind lets me keep up with the pros' time here. The end split is also very linear, since the goal is to kill the dragon, and since 0 cycles have become the standard at my level and beyond, there's very little you can do to cut major time from the split. If both a pro and I go for the same 0, they may be able to save a rotation on me by managing dragon height and bowing better, but that time is minuscule compared to the rest of the run. The next question is an interesting one. I've wanted to know the answer to this one for a while. When you want to play faster than normal in a run, say if you're trying to get like a PB or like make a comeback, say you're behind in the run, what major changes do you make to your gameplay?
You can't try to like actually do your mechanics faster because then you're just going to have more inconsistency. It's going to be slower. Let's say you're trying to make a comeback. You kind of just have to make the variance plays. You got to make the WVVs, you know?
Yeah.
But it's about knowing which ones make sense to do. Risk analysis type of thing is also just like another big overarching skill, especially when it comes to playing top players. There's some things that are just fully not understood yet. Like playing strays is something that's so confusing because sometimes it's faster, sometimes it's not. But then some people can just make it work so much better than others. Like, if you... I think playing strays when you're behind, I've had a few pretty good like comebacks just based on playing strays.
I was watching like playoffs, was it last year or the year before? And someone mentioned that whenever Hacks loads into a seed, the first thing he's doing is trying to gather just as much information as possible right off the bat. Like your razor render distance and you're looking all around for everything you can possibly figure out. Information becomes so valuable, especially either if you're behind or if you're trying to get a lead. Knowing where everything's at can be such a huge advantage for sure. Yeah,
that's true, especially when it's like those weird non-linear overworlds like village seeds. Getting just information on your surroundings when you can, like double F5 and stuff at the beginning is super important, because even if you get information on like there's no lava pool around you, that's still good info because then you can sort of figure out where the lava pool is more likely to be. You know?
Mechanics are the main visible driving force of your gameplay, but when behind, mechanics alone usually can't bring you back into the lead, especially if your opponents are equal or faster. This is where decision making comes back into the picture, and the main way to gain time back is through variance plays. Variance plays are the decisions you make that differ from either what your opponent does or what is typically standard for a run. For example, in my first match of Season 11, a ruin portal generated next to the intended village. I split off toward a lava pool after the village, but my opponent doubled back and went for the ruin portal. This ended up losing them a little time in the short term, but in that chest was a looting one sword that would bring them back into the run later on. It's decisions like these that can make or break your run. But when behind, or in this case, matched up against a pro runner, these sort of plays are what you'll need to gain much needed time. If you queue someone better than you, going into the run, in what ways are you looking to make up time on them?
No matter who I'm playing, like sometimes I'll be playing Dugile, and okay, I don't know why I threw Dugile under the bus, but like,
I was thinking Dugile too,
like,
so
like anybody like fast, and usually they're gonna be the nether first, but maybe it's just a weird seed and then there's like no obvious enter and I'm in first. It's always an awkward situation because you know that they're fast, so you want to keep playing at your top speed, but also you're ahead, so like should you play consistently? And I think it's good to think about where you are in the run, but also who you're playing, I guess, is good. Honestly, I am guilty of playing differently depending on who I'm playing, but I think there's something to be said about having the sort of like aura mindset of just not really changing how you play depending on who you're playing, because it's kind of like you're basically telling yourself that you're the worst player in the situation, you know? And that's sort of a bad mindset to go in, even if it's kind of like makes sense. Like, I don't know. I think you can make the decisions based off of like if you're behind or not, less so than like who you're playing. Just have confidence in your abilities, yeah. But also like know when it's a good idea to make a play to try to like come back or something. Like instead of trying to make a variance play where it's just like full luck, is something that's more in your control. Like playing strays, like I was talking about earlier, is something that's kind of more in your control and gives you a chance to like sort of win still on variance, but also like more on skill than just like pure luck of like ripping or looting 3 sword or something like that.
I think Jacko made a great point with what he said there, that you should make decisions less on the person you're playing and more on the point of the run you're at. If you see that your opponent has entered the fortress and you're 20 seconds out, looking to play strays and get a few extra blaze kills could allow you to skip some spawner cycles and possibly blind and leave earlier. Worrying about increasing your speed or making rash decisions rarely pays off like you'd think, and there's something to be said about having confidence in yourself. What mechanics take the longest to refine and perfect?
It's hard because like it's hard to define what you define as mechanics. So the first thing that popped in my head was zero cycle, but like there's actually a lot of knowledge kind of part of zero cycle, and that's why I would say it's like the longest, the hardest to refine and perfect, because zero cycle there's so many combinations and like different situations that you can find yourself in. I think if zero cycle counts as a mechanic, then like that would be it for sure.
So what do you think are the easiest mechanics then? So if the zero cycle is the hardest, what would be the easiest?
I think everybody is good at building a nether portal. Like, have you seen Ludwig crank out the flicks on the lava portal? I feel like everybody just naturally locks in on that. I don't know. Because everybody loves to learn portals. Portals are just so fun. I think that naturally makes them easy. I think, obviously, some of them are still hard, but just like the simple lava portal is probably the easiest.
The zero cycle in theory isn't too hard, and some variations are definitely easier than others, but the main problem with zeros is the combination of both knowledge and mechanics required to pull them off. You need to know all different pillar heights, locations, offset setups, buried spawns, and bed timings that vary all over the place. Combining all that knowledge with actually having to pull it off quickly makes zero cycles the king of Minecraft mechanics. Compare it to the lava pool, and you can see the stark contrast in skill required to do each. A lava portal is one of the first things you learn to make, so naturally it's going to be one of the first things you'll get good at, or at least closer to a pro. What's your number one piece of advice for improving at the game long term?
Find people, find a community. Obviously, MC is hard as a community, but find people that will also improve along with you, because it makes it more fun. You can bounce ideas off each other. You know, you can improve and like learn things, and maybe they'll find something and then you teach it with them, and then like etc. Like, that would be my number one piece of advice.
If you compile all the great advice Jacko gave and apply it to this theoretical question, you would need to have better decision making, mindset, quicker endgames and fortress splits, go for smart variance plays based on where you're at in the run, and have confidence in your own abilities. So what would it take to beat a pro speedrunner? In a one-time match, it would take an incredible amount of luck for them to make a mistake, or for you to make an insane variance play that works out. But over a long period of time, focusing on the areas that separate you from them and improving overall is what it would take. So no, it probably won't happen right away, but with enough time and practice, that's what it would take. Huge thanks to JackoWacko for helping me out this video. Go give him a follow in the links in the description, and huge thanks to you for watching. If you want to learn about things speedrunners do to avoid death, click this video right here. And as always, take care. Peace!